Hey guys, welcome to the Being Beautifully Honest podcast and channel. Thanks so much for being here, for being subscribed. If you're not, go ahead and hit that button. And if you're listening on YouTube, hit that like button. It's like walking in the room and hitting that light switch. Let's brighten up the place and get into this beautifully honest reaction. I honestly got inspired. I was listening to some commentary from one of the YouTubers that I'm subscribed to, hereforhottea. I'm actually going to put a link to the video in the description box. So if you're not subscribed to her channel, go ahead and subscribe. Definitely check out her commentary. She was breaking down a lot of things about Kimmy that I've actually been seeing, and I just really found it so ironic and coincidental that someone is sharing this information. That one, I appreciate her putting in the time in to curate, pull it out, and share it with us, because over the seasons that I've watched Love and Marriage Huntsville, and there have been little things, little digs that Kimmy has said against Melody that I never really understood when I would see her almost taking up for Marital. And it didn't make sense to me when she would say Marital's a good guy. This is all after knowing that this man had been screwing over his wife, disrespecting her, cheating on her consistently. I'm like, what married woman would feel that way about a man that was married to their friend unless they didn't really care for that woman? It's not right. It's just not right. So when she would say things like Mel is bougie and just little, digs that she would say about Melody, and I just didn't understand it. I really didn't understand her taking up for Marital and saying that he's a good guy. And anyway, it was a lot. But, it just really made me want to go back to the interview that she and Maurice did, where she was pretty much defending Maurice on TGIF on Fox Soul. I talked about that interview before, but I wanted to do a breakdown. So I'm going to do a beautifully honest reaction to the entire interview, because listen, if anything, this interview just makes her out to be a liar, because this interview was done prior to the preseason trailer that dropped of Love and Marriage Huntsville, where she was speaking with Maurice, and he was just pretty much sharing that he really doesn't care about how she feels. And she was saying, do you know that, just makes you look like an asshole? But why didn't you say that in the interview? You were talking about, well, you were missing out too. So let's just go ahead and get into this.
Kimmy, I'd like to give you the opportunity to respond to a headline. A sad case of a man. Love and Marriage Huntsville fans slam Maurice for demanding intimacy while Kimmy goes through chemotherapy. Kimmy, what is your response to the backlash that Maurice has been getting lately?
So here's the thing, originally, I didn't even watch it. He told me he had an interview with Carlos, and usually I just kind of get the nuts and bolts of it. He was like, well, we did this. He asked me about that and that, and I didn't do anything. And then when I finally saw stuff just kind of everywhere, I was like, oh my gosh, what did you say? I literally was like, what did you say? And so one of the comments somebody keeps screenshotting around is the fact that I said, let me go see the interview. And people were like, I don't believe she hasn't seen it. And I just got life. We got stuff. So when I actually did see it, I told him, I said, that was disrespectful. The words that you chose were cruel to me. It wasn't protecting me.
The words that you chose. He said what he meant, and he meant what he said. So that didn't even matter.
The irony of the conversation in itself was that if you actually watch the show, I'm the one who initiated the conversation in regards to the fact that the chemo has affected my libido. And I know that affects him and his sexual injuries. So he has never forced me to do one single thing. He has never made me. He has never implied he was going to leave me. So the headlines, in order to get likes and tags, I absolutely get it. But the words that he chose to use throughout that interview, I felt were a bad choice of words in regards to me, because it didn't protect me.
He doesn't protect her. All he's trying to do is protect his dick and was flying through it because he is the one that cares about this. Listen, any woman knows that the majority of the men are the ones that are wanting it. And so the fact that she felt like she had to initiate a conversation about how it affected her libido, it's because she knew that he was the type that wanted it all the time. This had been said in prior seasons and prior episodes about him, wanting it. There was a couples retreat that they did where it was like therapy with Dr. Francis and his wife. And I mean, Dr. Francis was speaking to him about intimacy. So, I mean, Maurice is not into being intimate. He's just into effing, he's just into screwing. He's just into getting his rocks off. And he was trying to discuss with him about caring about how she feels. And then all he was like is, well, oh, okay, well, if I act like I care how she feels, then I'll get more sex. He's just a freaking rockhead. And this is the man she chose. This is the man she wanted. This is the man that she stalked. She said it, not me, on social media. And this is what she got.
In the words that he chose to use to describe, like, I think he said, bend over and take it. That's like ridiculous. Like, that's ridiculous. And I told him, I said, that was awful.
He said that to her. Listen, he said that in an interview to Carlos, so you know that he said it even worse to her, because that's usually the way it is. They try to clean things up for the public, but just between the two of us, this is how it's really going down. So those are not the words that he chose. Yeah, he said the things, but he actually tried to clean it up in public. And for him, that's the cleaned up version.
The choice was off.
I want to jump in and say something real quick. I was horrified too with some of the language. And I spoke about having a situation where it was the reverse. I had a man that had some issues. I want to ask both of you. Kimmy, I want to ask you first, do you feel the pressure? Like, if I don't satisfy my man, even when I don't feel good, am I nervous? Do I feel a way about the future of my marriage? And Maurice, if you could take back what you said, would you rephrase it, or do you stand on exactly what you said?
So for me, like I said, we filmed it and everything. For Kimmy, I never felt like he was going to leave me. That wasn't the case whatsoever. However, even before our chemo issue came up, we already had conversation about our sex life. We talked about our sex life before we got married. So this is like an honest statement. In Kimmy's world, I had made up in my head 7 days was the limit. Like, I would never make my husband go more than 7 days. I don't care if we're angry. I don't care what's going on. That was always Kimmy's rule in her head.
And you hear what she said? I don't care if we're angry. I'm not going to let him go this long without screwing me, because she knows she knew who she married. This man said that he was screwing freaks multiple times a day, different ones, right? And she knew what she got. I think it's healthy for couples to have conversations about their sex life, absolutely. But for her, it wasn't so much a conversation about their sex life. It was really about making sure that he was getting what he needed, because she did not want to lose what he had, signed up for in terms of marrying her. It's like in-house pee multiple times a day, 7 days a week.
And so in this case, we went about 2 weeks, and I was like, ugh. So it was my choice, because I know that that's fulfilling for both of us. It's fulfilling for both of us. Like, at the end of the day, he's not the only one missing out. I'm missing out because I don't have the same climax.
Lies. When you're not feeling well, and even if she wasn't feeling sick, but she just didn't have the drive sexually because of the chemo meds. It wasn't going to be like, oh, well, you know what? I'm not really feeling like freaking, but I'm going to be missing out. So I'm going to go ahead and give this man this cootie cat because I am missing out too. When you're not feeling it, you're not feeling it, especially as a woman, So it's just not true. And he was just sitting there with these dead eyes as she's giving all of this expression and emotion of all of this ridiculousness.
The same arousal. You know what I'm saying? So I never had that conversation based on the fact that I thought he was going to leave. I know I love my husband and that is a big part of our world. I don't physically hurt. It doesn't hurt me to have sex. It doesn't do that whatsoever. It was just the arousal of the moment and the climax that is very different for me. So I'm just not getting the same fulfillment out of the sexual activity that he was.
We got it. So let's get Maurice in here. Maurice, do you think it was selfish for you to force your wife to suffer through it while she was fighting for her life? Your words.
Your words. Now, those are my words. And I'm going to own the words that I say. However, you have to take everything into full context.
You're a con. Taken into full context, that is exactly what you said. So what the hell is he talking about? You have to take everything into full context. It's what he said.
I didn't have knowledge of her suffering. I didn't have knowledge of her rolling over and giving it to me when she didn't want to, right? Or didn't feel the need to. At the end of the day, this is the thing. She surprised the hell out of me on television, talking about, you know what? I'm not getting it. I'm faking it. All that stuff. Like, listen, it's on national TV. So I'm like, oh, really? So you're faking it. This whole time I'm thinking that you're doing it. And it puts everything into context when you watch the television show and then you actually see the interview. Because for me to find out that she's faking it, and then for me to analyze a situation and say, it's admirable for her to do this because, number one, most people that do things for you let you know that they're doing it for you. They don't let you find out later on, oh, wow, you were actually hurting or you were going through something and you were sharing that. And you were doing it for me. So, of course, I would change my words and give better context in any type of interview. However, I still think
you don't think it was a little cringy to even want to have sex with her while she was going through that? And I ask that because typically if somebody's not feeling well, we don't make them cook. We don't make them wash the dishes. We may not make them take the kids to school, and all of those things are oftentimes considered a wife's duty. You didn't think it would be all right for her to forego that one duty while she was going through this?
See, this is the thing. We weren't doing it on the day she wasn't feeling good. Unless I didn't know that either.
No, you heard what he said, right? We weren't doing it on the days when she wasn't feeling good, unless she didn't let me know that either. Now, listen, you can take that a couple of different ways, but the way that I take it is most of the time she was not feeling good based on the information that I have from people that have gone through that. They usually don't feel well, and you know it. So for him to say, unless she didn't say anything, you don't have to say anything when you're going through that. You see it. But all he really cared about was feeling that warm hole and getting his rocks off. That was it. And the expression that she has on her face as he's speaking about that, she just looks mortified, but yet and still, he said he wouldn't take his words back. So
Interesting.
So can you ask you earlier, would you rephrase anything that you said? Because it seemed your wife just revealed that it was your words, right? And how you said things, bend over and take it. I've done this many times. I've said stuff and it's like, I wish I would have said it like this. Would you rephrase anything? Would you do over? Or are you like, no, I meant it exactly.
Anytime my wife feels like she's not protected by whatever I do, that's my job. Mm-hmm. That's why God gave her to me, is to make sure that I have a covering and protection over her at all times. And if she feels...
When he says that, her eyes go down. Like, the body language, it speaks more than what are the words that are coming out of their mouths. When he says, that's my job to cover and protect her. And as he's saying that, she is kind of dissolving into herself and she's looking down. I'm no body language expert, never proclaimed to be, but that was telling and it spoke volumes. It was louder than anything that he was saying at that point.
My words are crass and I'll change my words. I'm not one of those people that say, man, I said what I said. Now, mind you, that's a great quote and everything else that goes around on social media. I said what I said. I don't even know where that came from. But I'm not one of those people. It came from
Candy on the Housewives of Atlanta. She said it on one of the replays.
That's actually wrong. Nene leaks. I will give her credit. I definitely am one of those people that give it to her when I feel like I need to, but I will also give her credit. And Nene was the one that said, I said what I said.
No, I said what I said. I said what I said. Hold on. Let me say it better the next time.
So I know y'all probably been through this, and we know Marital and Melody have gone through this. The fans have been voicing their opinion about Maurice's remarks, and many of them are saying, Kimmy should leave the relationship. Obviously, you're not going nowhere, but has all this
He said, obviously, you're not going anywhere. I mean, the jab, like 1-2 punch. Wow.
From the fans affected you guys' relationship in any way?
I actually really don't care what people say that don't love me. Like, they love me one day and they hate me the next.
No, I never loved him.
I don't really care what Kimmy says. If Kimmy says it offends her, guess what? I'll be changing. If Monster says it offends him, Jalen, any of the kids, guess what? I'll change.
And we know that's not the truth because this man has put his feelings and desires above her in every single way, from bringing that child to live with them, from having his now wife to help take care of this child. She's having to tell him, you're not spending quality time with your son that isn't even my child, that I did not give birth to, and then expecting her to roll over and take it. Like, everything is about his feelings 100%.
But I think
it's a moment in time being on, television that we have to take a lot of comments, whether we agree, don't agree. I usually take most of them with a grain of salt most of the time. However, I think, some of our fans to me just go overboard, like really for real.
I am not a fan. And that's the one thing I will say. I'm not a fan of anybody. I admire certain people. I admire qualities about certain people and whatever. I'll never call myself a fan of anybody. I just think this is just my personal opinion, guys. I'm just speaking on this because it was just said, and I'm giving my beautifully honest reaction to it. Don't take offense to it if that's what you want to call yourself about someone, fine. I don't call myself a fan of anyone because all of these people at the end of it all, they're humans just like you and I. They all put in their pants the same way, one leg at a time. And everybody has a point in time where they die. No one is superhuman. We're all human beings. They may have more exposure. They may have more access. They may have more money, whatever. But I'm a person. I'm not a fan. And I'm definitely not a fan of theirs.
But in general, I felt like a lot of them were warranted, that the communication, it was crass. I mean, it was crass and, non-protecting, disrespectful. A lot of those comments were on point.
And I got to say this as the woman here, and I'm sorry, Al, I know you haven't had a chance to say anything. I still haven't heard him rephrase it in a kinder way right here on the show. I've been trying to give you the opportunity because I feel like your wife is protecting you more than you're protecting her.
Absolutely. You already know her saying, oh, I was missing out too. I wanted to do it too. I had already made a pact that I was never going to go 7 days without my man getting some, even if we're angry at each other. Then you're just giving into what he wants, because you can't tell me that there is any female, any woman for that matter, that is going to be upset with a man and just given to them having sex because it's like, well, I wanted it too. No, you're doing that for him. And she's been protecting him in that interview the entire time. And he's just like, well, yeah, I said what I said. And even if someone asks me again, I might try to phrase it a little better with the words that I choose. But what I said was what I said.
I feel like she's protecting your rep, and I'm like, Kimmy, I should have said it like this. I'm sorry. And it's like, I feel so bad for her. Like, I can't imagine going through what she's going through. You saying that, and then me asking you twice if you would rephrase it, and you said, yeah, but you really haven't. It seems like it's more about you than her still, in my opinion. It's just my opinion, and you can tell me shut the fuck up if you want to. It's just my opinion, you know?
I understand where you're coming from. And what I said is you got to get it in the context. I'm not going to rephrase. You said, will I rephrase it? Yes, I would rephrase it. But at the end of the day, we're talking about this because I've already said something, right? There's no taking it back. There's no ringing that bell. That bell's rung. That's why we're here. At the end of in the future, what I will do is I'll make sure that my wife feels protected. I don't feel any different about the situation.
There you have it. He doesn't feel any different about the situation. He said what he said. He said what he meant. And he couldn't even bring himself to lie, to try to phrase it differently and say, I didn't really mean it that way. And this is what I should have said it this way. He didn't even attempt to do that because he is about what he wants. He's not protecting her, not even in a way to lie, just to try to make her look better, even though most people wouldn't believe it if he did lie. Let's just be real. So there's that. But he didn't even attempt because the ego of these Scotts is just unreal. These Scotts males. His brother Marcel can't stand him. Listen, if Melody said nothing true on that show that I didn't even really pay attention to before until now, it was when she said that Maurice was the least relevant person on the show. Some people may have seen that and were like, who does she think she is talking about him like that? It actually is true because even when she said it, I didn't really think much about him. And now seeing it even more so now, it's like, are you doing these things? Even though it's really him. I'm not saying he's doing this to try to become relevant on the show, but this is an attempt also to get more relevance, to have more people talking about you? Because listen, it definitely did go viral. Here I am to this day still talking about it. I am quite sure that the only one he cares about is himself. And that's it. He is not covering and protecting that woman. He feels like him sitting there with his arm behind her back is him covering and protecting her. You know, I remember the ride when they were going to the hospital when she was getting herself prepared to start having treatments. And he was talking about her cooking dinner. You know, like, it's just ridiculous.
At the end of the day, my wife did something that most people won't do. Simply, she put her personal feelings aside. I never wanted her to do anything that was uncomfortable. I wanted her to stop working. I wanted her to put everything to the side and let's get better. So when she's doing things to find a sense of normalcy in life, guess what? I don't know, because I'm not inside of her, what makes her feel good, what doesn't make her feel good, when she's feeling good, when she's not. So at the end of the day,
Maurice, I feel that
And it ends there. But listen, guys, I am, gosh, I'm honestly kind of at a loss for words, but it's basically this. This man is someone that she chose. She was dating him after, 7 years they got married? And at her age, at the point in time where she was at, I don't know what she did to convince him to move forward in the marriage. I don't know if maybe those were the agreements that they made for her to be able to get this man to marry her. Well, you commit to having sex with me as much as I want, and we're not going to go 7 days, longer than 7 days without me getting some. And I'm assuming those would be the days if she still has a cycle and she's not on menopause, that's the only time that he would get a break from that hole. But probably the other hole, if you get my drift, she probably would have to be working on him, because this man is a nymphomaniac. He has issues that he needs to get addressed in therapy, not in the pussy. Excuse my language. I'm sorry. And I'm sure she has a lot of regrets about it. But listen, the man you chose, you stay with him. I'm not here to tell her that she needs to leave. That's the choice and decision that she made. But just seeing over these seasons of how she has been with Melody, little snide remarks that she would make, as well as her pretty much taking up for Marital, I couldn't do it. I just could not do it. And then after that interview, to pretty much see on the first episode of the mid-season, she and him at wherever they were at, riding bikes, and they're discussing this again and how she got pissed off at him, but yet she's still taking it. They probably went right back home and she screwed him so that he could get what he wanted, not what she wanted. But on this interview, she's saying, well, I was missing out too. I made an agreement. I made a pact that I wasn't going to let my man go more than 7 days without getting some. Well, I'm quite sure at the time you didn't know that you would be going through a cancer battle and going through medical treatments and chemo and radiation and surgery. Like, seriously? He probably got some not long after she got out of recovery from surgery. Let's just be real. He's disgusting, but that's her man and she's standing by him. So anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts about all of this in the comment section. Again, check out Here for Hot Tea's video. I have a link to it in the description box. Thank you so much for being here, for liking and subscribing. I'm Beth, just being beautifully honest. So until the next time, I wanted to keep it brief, beautiful, and now I'm going to say bye.